Hey everyone, today I want to talk about speaker cables. So I have two DIY speaker cables, and this one is Audioquest Eyeful, and this one is Canary 4S11 speaker cable that I made with the KNU Concepts banana plugs, and this one is Mogami W3104 that I made. And this one is different design. I'm using monster cable, pure copper wires. I forgot the gauge of the wire, but I assume it should be around like 16 or 14 gauge. And I use this design like this. This is also another design. This is more like a cable design. So these are the cable that I made using readily available wires. This Audioquest Eyeful, I should say these are very neutral, very clean sounding cables with good amount of bass. And then the Canary 4S11. This is by far my favorite cable for most accurately, naturally clean and very good bass performance, very well extended highs, very clean and neutral highs that this cable can produce. So that's why this is so far my favorite cable that I have. So this one is made with the Mogami W3104, which is really thick cable. It comes with the full 12 gauge conductors. And then this one is Monster pure copper magnet flux or something. So this one is very neutral, clean sounding, but highs are nicely roll off. Mid-range and everything is very clean and natural. So bass is pretty decent, not as good as these guys. So and then the bass a little sloppy and slow compared to these two cables. And then this one is my least favorite. It's all based on the cable geometry. Compare these two. These are loosely, what do you call it? It has more space between the wire. This one has less space, so which is make it really different. And also this is the not pure copper. This is like a 50-50 with some sort of metal. I'm making this video is a lot of people ask me what cable they should buy or how much money they should spend on their cables. So that's why I'm making this video. And then I want to make a little bit of a comparison review of these cables and cable that I had in the past. So these cables are not my favorite, so I'm going to put them aside. And then Audioquest Eyeful, which used to be one of my favorite cable when I started this hobby, after the monster cables. So this one is very good cable, very clean, neutral, and very clean sounding. Only thing that left out is like a bass performance. The bass notes are not as good or not as deep, but I would love to hear. So but I use this cable when I'm pairing with, in the home theater, watching movie, pairing with the subwoofer. I'm still using this cable in my TV room. It still sounds okay. It's not my favorite anymore, so I'm gonna put this aside. It's down to these two cables. So a little bit background on my cables. Like when I started out this hobby, I was teenager. Back then, there is like only available was monitor audio cables from Germany and monster cables. So I made my choices and I bought very thick gauge, 10 gauge monitor audio cables from Germany. It's as big as these two fingers. So that was a very big cable. So back then I was using the full AccuPhase setup. So it was okay. I wasn't too crazy, or I wasn't that, I don't know too much about audio back then. So it sounded okay. Nothing really memorable experience that I, have. So, and then after that, I got into, Monster audio cable like Monster Z series, M series, I think. So those cable go for a pretty good amount of money. So after that, I got into, Audioquest cables. For the cable, highest I have ever paid was like $1,800, somewhere around there. So it's kind of expensive for a pair of wires that you can buy. What I'm sharing is my experience through the time since early, 90s to today's. I spent $20,000 setup. I spent $10,000 setup. I spent $5,000 setup. I mean, a lot of people think more money the better. Not all the time. Most of the time is only, your taste and synergy and where you're gonna put them. Your room, your place, your setup, and your music. So everything comes together to get a great sounding system. Right now, I'm not using this cable because I broke one of my banana plugs on here accidentally. So this Mogami W3104 cable offer very good performance for price that you can get. It's kind of a little pricey for cable, but very good cable. Only thing that different than a Canary 4S11 is the Mogami highs are a little softer, a little roll off compared to this. Not as much as these braided cables. So that's the only thing that are noticeable. Mid-range, maybe I might prefer more on this 4S11 cable, but it's about equal. Only, thing that are really make these two cables different is Canary 4S11 base is tighter in my system. So these are the two budget-friendly cables that I made for my everyday use. So I sold all my Audioquest speaker cables. Last one I sold, I still have Audioquest Eyeful, but the last one I sold was Audioquest Gibraltar, which is very good cable. Little battery case piggyback on the cable, so reduce the cable break-in and reduce the noise control or whatever. I'm not sure if it's work or not, but if I try to use it with and without, I don't really notice that much in the sound quality. I sold it for a good amount of money, and what made me sold that cable was it sounded a little lifeless with my Parasound setup compared to 4S11. The more you listen to music, the more you listen to your system. I kind of go towards the good live sounding setup. So that cable was Gibraltar was okay, very nice sounding, very clean, very tonally accurate, but it doesn't have the enough sparkle. It doesn't have the enough dynamics to enjoy like real life like sounding. Comes down to these pro grade cables like 4S11 or W3104. These kind of Canary or Mogami they use everywhere all over the world in live venue or in the studio, wherever you name the pro environment, they have one of these cables either. So and I try experimenting this cable, and I kind of like the way that they reproduce the sound, because what I like about it is that they don't get in the way of music. You see, that is the main point. That's the my definition of good cable. If any cable that makes sound smoother, less high, less bass, or more mid-range. I don't know how to call them. If you prefer that way, it's good for you, but I prefer the cable don't get in the way of music, because music is most important thing for me when I'm listening to music. So equipment, speakers, cables, interconnects, power cables, it's all different. I mean, there's so many different things that you can buy. Do they all make difference? Yes, they do make difference, because good quality ones make very different. It doesn't have to be, expensive cables. It doesn't have to be, $1,000 per foot cable. So I don't know how they make them. Some charge like $2,400 1 meter. So I don't know what they use in there. Probably, they treat it with plutonium or whatever, the crazy crap. So I'm not against those cables. Some may call it snake oil, but I never call anything snake oil in this hobby, because to me is anything that makes me happy, that's good enough for me. So this cable makes me happy, this cable makes me happy. They are great cables. So my recommendation is, if you want the cable doesn't get in the way of your music, get this kind of cable or get this kind of cable. If you prefer, smooth, lifeless sound, you can, braid the cable like this. Or you have a very bright sounding speaker, you can braid the cable like this. It will brings the highs down better than your tone control, because without using the tone control, it will change the sound. This kind of cable, and this one will take you to less extent. So that's why I made all different kinds of cables. My highest recommendation goes to these two cables, Mogami W3104 and Canary 4S11. These cable companies like Mogami or Canary, they never tell anyone that their cables are made better than whatever people are offering. They just very straightforward. They made this cable with this kind of copper and how many conductors and what wire gauge that they offer. And noise cancellation is really good. These are twisted cables underneath. And then these are the cables that doesn't really get get in the way of your music listening. A lot of cables that are manufactured by audiophile favorite companies, they tend to get in the way of music some way or another. Some cables offer better mid-range, some cables offer better bass performance, some cables offer more cleaner clarity and detailed sounding and all sort of things. So the reason I prefer using pro grade cable is they are neutral, they don't get in the way of music, they don't color the sound that much. That's why I prefer using them, because my music is more important than what cable I have, because I prefer hearing my music very closest to hearing it outside or hearing it naturally without affecting coloring the sound. You will never go wrong with Canary off Mogami cables and audiophile grade, audiophile rated cables. You have to take it as a grain of salt. You must experience yourself. They may sound good, some may sound different than you are expected. I had a lot of experience. The Kimber 80C that I had a long time ago was one of that mistake that I made, because I didn't like it at all. So anyway, so that is how I had an experience. I'm not saying they didn't make bad cables or anything like that, because I don't want to upset those fanboys. because in this hobby there's a lot of fanboys. Some people are very, very unhappy about the way that I did review on Bucat Audio S300 Mark II speakers. Come on, I mean, be real, be realistic. These are the two of my favorite cables. Highly recommended. And the sound quality, I can guarantee you will get the sound as good as original recording, or as good as your speaker or your system can produce. Some people are happy with the lamp coat. I'm fine with them. I'm not. It sounded like crap. I mean, I can't even listen. Best cable doesn't get in the way of reproducing the music in your system. That is the best cable. That's why I use these two cables. So that is my take on the speaker cables. It's your money, you spend it wisely, and as long as you're happy listening, go ahead and buy any cables that you like. So that is my take on speaker cables. Thank you for watching. Happy listening.